with the rest of the world. Tonight we're speaking to Reverend Emeritus Professor Xyz Tonite, who is a former provost of the College of Health Sciences, University of Ghana. And also later on the program, we speak to Dr. Solomon Apiakubi, who is a biochemist. And then we also get to speak to a virologist, Reverend Father Professor Kwame Nasego, on the program as well. But before that, let me just give you a fair idea of what's been happening in the country. Here in Ghana, our major focus has been on the final farewell, if you will, celebration of life. For some, it's been a mournful moment, as we say, final goodbye to the former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. As you can see there on your screen, he's been finally laid to rest at the military cemetery at Burma camp here in Accra. Now, his burial was preceded by a procession through the principal streets of Accra from the Osu area, then to the 37 military hospital, and ended at the Burma camp. The parade was for members of the general public who, due to steps taken to curb the spread of COVID-19, could not pay their last respect and had the opportunity to do so. In the early hours of Wednesday, the final day for the funeral, right, of the former leader, of course, it took place at the Black Star Square, where President Akufo-Addo and many other leaders eulogized the former president of the Republic of Ghana, late now former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Now to COVID-19, and let's just give you a fair idea of the global picture as we can go to our magic board now and give you the statistics as it is looking across the length and breadth of the globe before we get into our major conversation tonight here on the show. Remember, our focus is on COVID-19, the facts and the fears, and then some of the precautionary measures some scientists have indicated that we can take in order to prevent or protect ourselves. And we can actually do that on the screens. Now, as you can see there on your screen, the global outlook of the COVID-19 case. Pretty shortly, we'll be getting into our country, Ghana, and give you a fair idea of how it is looking. Now, in terms of the data worldwide, the number of cases across the globe, we're looking at 100,989,348. These are recorded cases, or number of cases that have been recorded worldwide. And then in terms of the number of deaths that's been recorded, we're looking at 2,171,104 deaths so far. Now, in terms of the recoveries across the length and breadth of the globe, we're looking at 73,003,108 recoveries. Let's move on to our next slide, and let's just give you a fair idea of how it is looking globally in terms of the COVID-19 cases. Now, if you look at the number of days here, we're looking at 7 days, and on the average, you get to see the cases. For instance, on the 23rd of January 2021, the new cases recorded we're looking at 600,790. On the average, we're looking at 624,369. Our scientists will get to explain this to us further as we move into the conversation. We'll be coming to Ghana, and we'll look at how the situation is looking like in our dear country, Ghana. But in terms of the deaths recorded so far, as of the 23rd of January 2021, deaths recorded was at 15,846. That's worldwide, 15,846. And then on the average, we're looking at 13,872 there. Let's move on to the next issue. And of course, coming to our dear home, Ghana, in terms of the COVID-19 scenario situation, this is from the Ghana Health Service. Total number of confirmed cases is at 62,751. And we're looking at the current statistics as we have it. And if you check out the map here, this is the Ghana map. All these areas gives you an indication of how it is looking like across the length and breadth of the country. So this, in terms of the 16 regions, every region has recorded, a level of case as far as COVID-19 is concerned, with Greater Accra topping it all at 36,205. In terms of the new cases, we're standing at 616 active cases, 3,813 confirmed cases, 62,700 751. And then in terms of the number of deaths, 377. Let's give you a certain revelation, and probably some of you who have been following the issue with regards to COVID-19. Now, one thing that you should look at is that as of July last year, the cases that we had recorded had spiked in such a way that there were various concerns on the need to revisit some of the restrictions that were imposed, but that was ignored. And then there was literally a redefinition of the recorded cases, and so the numbers began to go down, and then we saw some of course the cases going down eventually. And then, as you can see with regards to this curve, it moves on, and then we're going to do some comparison here. So you look at January 4, and then you look at where we are in terms of the case, and then you compare it to July last year, and you realize that the spike as of January had gone up comparatively to July. Question is, what happened? We'll be finding out shortly here on the show. So that's how it is basically looking like in terms of the COVID-19 cases here in our dear country, Ghana. So in terms of the total number of cases, as per the breakdown on the 23rd of January 2021, 62,751, recoveries 58,561, active cases 3,813, and then the deaths 377. So now we're moving into the next gear. How do we protect ourselves? What are the various mechanisms or the various preventive measures that we can roll out? And that's the reason we're going to be speaking to our guests right now here on XYZ Tonight. Stay with us.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always drink fresh, natural, X, mineral, water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural. Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For our Kwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you.
for staying with us here on XYZ Tonight, here on TV XYZ and across all our social networking platform, including YouTube. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can be a part of the conversation. The focus is on COVID-19. We're looking at the various preventive mechanism, or of course a protective approach that we can be using or deploying in order to keep safe in the country. Now, remember that this program is brought to you by X Natural Mineral Water, Simply Natural, and of course, Prostafit Capsules, aka John Soboko. Now, Prostafit Capsule is for the treatment of prostate enlargement and prostate infection, especially amongst men. And of course, if you've got difficulty in urination, urgency to urinate, sometimes it's a leakage in terms of various issues related to urination, make sure to get Prostafit Capsules, and then you can have that quick relief from this particular stress or pain that you have. Prostafit Capsules, John Soboko. Let me give you a fair idea of where to go in order to get Prostafit Capsules. If you go to Solak Herbal Shop opposite Eja Market Car Park, or KNG Herbal at KJTI in Kumasi, or you can call Dr. Solomon on 0245 616028. And of course, you can also visit Solak Natural Clinic, located at Kenti Chrono, opposite the Shell filling station in Kumasi. This is XYZ Tonight. COVID-19 is our focus. We're looking at what we can do to stay safe. And thank God we have Reverend Emeritus Professor Andrew Seth Aite with us. He is a former provost of the College of Health Sciences at the University of Ghana. Prof, good to have you on the program.
Thank you for the invitation.
And let me give you some quick revelation. Prof introduced something exclusive onto the scene, and just this evening, the Food and Drugs Authority issued a statement on the back of it, and is a mechanism that, according to Prof, if we adopt, we'll be able to stay safe as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Prof, hydrogen peroxide, how is that a protective mechanism?
Well, again, thank you for inviting me to the studio to talk about this to the whole nation. I would like to talk about the various interventions,
yes,
in protecting ourselves against COVID-19 or dealing with COVID-19. The first intervention is preventing the virus from entering us, and that is critical. And that is why the government, especially the president, has emphasized the use of face masks, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, washing of hands with soap under running water, social distancing, staying at home. All these are very important. But because the virus is so tiny, in fact, the particle size of the virus is 120 nanometers, and a nanometer is a billionth of a meter. So it's extremely small. So no matter how well we protect ourselves, some of these viruses might enter. I talk about the load of the virus and then the dose. When you are in a hospital, the environment will have a high load of the virus. So the risk of some of them still entering you is quite great. And when you are dealing with a COVID patient who will cough on you, then you have a high dose as well. So when we've done everything to prevent the virus from entering us, and by the way, the best face mask that is used is the N95 mask.
The N95?
Yes, N95.
Why is that one the best?
Yes, it's the best because the pores in that mask are about 100 to 300 nanometers. And so if the virus particle is 120 nanometers, then it will prevent them from entering the individual.
So that being, I mean, N95 being the best means what? The other ones that we are using?
Well, they have very large pores. Nevertheless...
So we are at risk?
Well, no, nevertheless, it's better than nothing.
But there's a risk. There's a risk factor involved.
Well, there's a risk factor.
Percentage-wise, what are we looking at?
Well, I wouldn't be able to give you the percentage, but what
But
we
is
have,
it a high risk factor?
yes, there's a risk. I mean, if you don't use the mask very well, and most people would use the mask or expose the nose, and the nose is actually where we breathe in, and some people will put it on the chin, and all these things will expose you to. And in any case, when you are going to eat, you take the mask off. So there is always a risk of some of the viruses entering the oral cavity, the mouth, entering the nose, and certainly our eyes. What happens is that because of tear fluids in the eye, the tear fluids will drain, wash the viruses, and there's a duct that leads from the eye into the nasal cavity.
Does that mean we also need to guard our eyes?
Well,
I'm just curious. I mean,
that's why some people wear the shield. Yes, that's why some people wear the shield. But basically, what we're interested in, all these viruses outside that enter will enter the mouth and the nose. This is where we have the opportunity to use hydrogen peroxide. Because when the viruses enter the nose and the oral cavity...
Before we get to hydrogen peroxide, I want us to stay a little while longer on the mask.
On the mask.
Or mask. You speak of N95.
N95.
Which are those?
N95 is the highest level of mask that will prevent the viruses from entering you. You know, the mask is designed...
Is what I'm wearing N95?
Yes. In fact...
Or the surgical mask?
If we can ask everyone in Ghana to wear the N95 mask, we have a very good chance of breaking the infection cycle.
Really?
Yes, we have a very good chance. If everybody in Ghana will wear the N95, we have a very good chance. Nevertheless, what we are saying is that...
Are you able to wear the N95 for 24 hours?
Well, that's again a very good question. In fact, our investigation, our search in the literature shows that the oxygen molecule is 0.12 nanometer in size, the oxygen molecule. Carbon dioxide molecule is 0.25 nanometers. So if the N5 is 100 to 300 nanometers, it means that it will allow in oxygen and also give out carbon dioxide. You know, people who work in the hospitals sometimes say for several hours using the N5. So now we get to the
hydrogen peroxide. Tell me about it.
Yes. When the viruses get into the oral cavity, that's the mouth and then the nose, what happens is that they stay there in transit for about 2, 3, maybe up to 5 days in transit. And in this transit period, what they do is to prepare to penetrate the lining of what we call the mucosa or the epithelia. And so they attach to the membrane wall, then look at the cell signals and use the cell signals to penetrate. And when they penetrate, they get inside the body itself. And then when they get there, there's nothing you can do. And so we have a window of opportunity when they are in the oral cavity to attack them with hydrogen peroxide. Now, hydrogen peroxide, as we know, is, in fact, some people use it for bleach, but it's also an effective disinfectant.
Okay, so we've got a display that will come much later. I don't know but Prof, you go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is that the hydrogen peroxide is already known as an oral hygiene fluid. It is known to kill bacteria. It is known to kill fungi. Others have now shown that hydrogen peroxide also inactivates viruses. And in fact, specifically, coronaviruses, as well as influenza viruses.
It inactivates,
in other words, it's going to destroy them.
Destroy them.
So that they cannot, in fact, they cannot attach to the membrane wall, they cannot penetrate again. That is very crucial.
Does that make hydrogen peroxide a cure?
Well, not a cure.
If it's able to destroy a virus.
Not a cure. You see, it's a cure when the infection has happened. But before the infection happens, you can get rid of it. That is why that stage is very important in the intervention. And what hydrogen peroxide is a chemical that is quite unstable. So it breaks down into water and oxygen. The oxygen is called a free oxygen radical. That free oxygen radical acts like little bullets. And keep in mind that the particle size of the oxygen is 0.12 of a nanometer. The particle size of the virus is 120 nanometers. And so there's a large surface that the oxygen molecules can penetrate. The virus has a lipid membrane and then protein spikes. The oxygen attacks both. It attacks the membrane and then it attacks the protein spikes.
Okay.
When it does that, the virus is unable to progress further. And I think that is what my colleague...
Of course, he'll be taking us through that.
Yes, yes. So that is a very important stage. So when anyone, if I should come in contact with a COVID-19 patient and feel that I've been exposed, I have 2-3 days to inactivate the viruses using hydrogen peroxide. And then when the virus has not penetrated, there is still an opportunity to deal with them, because hydrogen peroxide is also part of the metabolic products inside the cell itself. I mean, God in his wisdom has made that provision so that the cells themselves generate hydrogen peroxide. And this is where the use of vitamin C is important, because high dose of vitamin C will also generate a lot of hydrogen peroxide. And that is why vitamin C is used in management of COVID patients.
And so if we're able to go through that route, I mean, using hydrogen peroxide, what would be your advice? I mean, would it be the only sure way of saying, look, forget about the other restrictions or protocols, stick with hydrogen peroxide? And I'm asking this question because just this evening, the Food and Drugs Authority reviewed that hydrogen peroxide had run out of stocks, at the various pharmacies. And what is also happening is that people are infiltrating with fake hydrogen peroxide. What do you think is accounting for this? Could it be that we are so much eager to get rid of COVID-19 that people are beginning to believe that this is the only route to go? This is the savior that has come to take us away from COVID-19. Could that be the situation?
I'll come to that. I'll hold that. I'll come to that.
Because reading your literature, that's the impression you get.
No, just a minute. Yes, I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Indeed, if every single person, and one of my colleagues I'm on an international platform with in the US, made that statement about a month ago. And I told my colleagues that, yes, this person is thinking along the same lines as we are doing. He said, if the whole world, just as I talked about the N5 mask, if the whole world would, for the next week or 2 weeks, use hydrogen peroxide, we will break the chain.
How?
Because and that
to
is
what
why,
extent?
And that is why I said, if you allow me a little, bit of, you're a little ahead of me. Yes. So I've given you 3 interventions so far. The first is preventing the virus from entering you. The second is when the viruses enter you, what you should do.
Yes.
And that's hydrogen peroxide. The third is that when the viruses have now actually caused infection, a high dose of vitamin C will cause release of hydrogen. So that's not a hydrogen that we would use to gargle. This is a hydrogen peroxide that God himself has provided. And if it's in excess, or if the oxygen radicals are released, then there are enzymes that would act to mop up the excess. But the fourth intervention is critical. And the fourth intervention is when the person has COVID-19 and is now coughing out the virus. So I want all to understand that the virus has an entry point.
Good.
And then the virus has an exit.
That's right.
In the exit, what you want to do is to inactivate these viruses again in a COVID patient. So what they cough out will not infect anyone. And then secondly, as they themselves shed the virus could reinfect them. So when you give this patient a mouthwash of hydrogen peroxide, you are protecting that COVID patient from reinfection.
Okay.
But more importantly, you are protecting the contact. So whatever the saliva, the phlegm, whatever comes out of that patient is going to be is going to have inactivated viruses.
And so just to understand you, the hydrogen peroxide is meant for COVID patients.
No. I said when they are entering, before you get COVID, they spend how many days? I said 2 to 5 days.
Absolutely.
In the oral cavity before they penetrate.
Yes.
So what you want to do is to inactivate them so that they cannot penetrate.
Okay.
But if you don't use hydrogen peroxide and they penetrate, the body itself has hydrogen peroxide. That's why high dose of vitamin C is important. But you can ignore that. Assuming that this patient has full-blown COVID and is now coughing out, going to infect your contacts, going to infect health workers. And in fact, this is again where our focus is. That if we can prevent health workers from being infected, that would be very useful. So when you give the hydrogen peroxide mouthwash to even the patient who has COVID, then you are protecting that COVID patient from reinfection.
And so on the use of hydrogen peroxide, finally, what will be your advice to policy formulators and implementers? What do they need to do, finally?
Yes, well, there's a fifth intervention that I haven't talked about.
Yes.
But what I would say is this, that let's break the chain. Let's break the chain. And we break the chain by hydrogen peroxide mouthwash so that people who have not had the COVID will not have it.
Okay.
People who have the COVID and are the ones who are shedding it. Because one single person with COVID can spread it to so many people. So if every COVID patient is given hydrogen peroxide as a mouthwash, then the risk of that person infecting others is minimized.
Okay.
So what can also be done is that any community, and you show the slide.
Yes, and we want to get that. We want to get that. Get to do that with your other colleagues, the virologists, who will be joining us shortly. But just wrapping up, finally, I want you to speak to policy formulators. And then on the back of this Food and Drugs Authority revelation, exactly what do we need to do?
Yes, well, first of all the protocols in place should be there. Secondly, based on the science that we have found, let us begin to use hydrogen peroxide, because we've given, if you read the article, that the statement we made, there were 8 nurses in a district hospital who were using hydrogen peroxide before even we got to know they were using it. But
it worked for them.
It worked for them. Yes. The 8 of them have been protected up to today, from April up to January. 62 of their colleagues who were not using hydrogen peroxide got infected. And there are several other examples, but that is the key one.
So the protocols, hydrogen peroxide,
yes.
And then what?
So hydrogen peroxide, we should invest heavily in that, especially also in people who already have COVID, because they are the ones who spread the disease.
Very well.
And then part of the policy will be to get to the to the hotspots
Okay.
where the disease is prevalent. If we can go into that community and give everyone literally hydrogen peroxide mouthwash and gargle and nose washing, we will get rid of this disease.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes.
And the conversation continues as we're going to be able to understand why we're having a spike in the cases, especially here in Ghana. In the national capital, for instance, the various hotspots. We're speaking to a virologist who would help us understand the COVID-19 virus and why the spike in cases right here on Xyz Tonight. Don't go away, stay with us.
We are one-man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Always drink fresh, natural eggs, mineral water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many or Accra.
Sure.
Check, auto checks, check, auto checks, check.
Emission. Check.
Check, auto checks.
Alignment, check.
Auto checks, check, auto checks.
Brakes. Check.
Visit AutoChecks at Koforidua Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much.
Auto checks.
Auto checks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Check, auto checks.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is XYZ Tonight with me, Prince MINKAH. We continue to look at the facts and fears as far as COVID-19 is concerned. We can now speak to a virologist, Reverend Father Professor Kwame Nasego, who is here with us on the program. Good to see you, Reverend Professor Kwame Nasego. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so just when we started the program, I was just taking our viewers through the situation globally. And then if you look at our situation here in Ghana, you realize that the cases are increasing. What is contributing to this?
Well, thank you, and then good evening to your viewers. The thing is about viruses is that when the virus is in the population, it's not a one-for-one situation. That is, if I have it, I'm not going to give it to one person. You may give it to 2, 3 people. So there's going to be an exponential rise. So what we are seeing now is that some things have gone wrong, if I should put it that way, or some factors are contributing to that quick rise. More people are getting infected, and those people are also giving it to others. So in the curve that you showed, you realize that it dropped.
Yes, it did.
So probably those measures that were put in place, like face masks, etc. You know, the Ministry of Health even said that there was an increase in use of face masks, and at that point they said that people had stopped using it. And all the activities concerning crowding and things, the Christmas parties. I have a small write-up of a friend who was in hospital. And if you look at the activities that he went through, this party, that party, open air party, and continuous. And then finally, so he wasn't even sure where he got it from. You know, so all these activities have contributed to that steep rise again.
Is that to say that we dropped our guard at a point?
I think we did. And I think we still are.
We still are?
Yes.
Even when the cases are increasing on daily basis, especially if you look at the daily situation, it's quite frightening.
Yes. I always make a joke that if you talk to me without a mask, I'll spray the air. Yeah, so people still are. And then you see, it's habits die hard. And people want to talk to you and they want to pull down the mask because they think that if they talk to you in a mask, you don't hear. And they draw close to you and pull it down. Being an Osoph is even more difficult because I want to tell you something I don't want anybody to hear.
And so there's a culture to the whole
There's a culture.
So how do we work around that?
I think
there should be,
I think there should be leadership at all levels. And by leadership at all levels, I mean that there are people, heads of institutions. In a small way, I'm a head of a lab or in a small place. Anybody who heads any part, we shouldn't just leave everything to the president. Insist that certain basic things are done, like wearing of masks, washing of hands, keeping of the protocols. The tendency for masks to drop is, I know you know me. We've been together. Yesterday we were together. Somebody told me the same thing. That I said, oh, I have a few friends in work, so I won't come to church, but I'll go to work. So I asked the person, what about, do you know where those people go to, that they come to work? And the answer obviously was no. So we need to have leadership of all levels. If we can make, and I think some of the chiefs have started, if we can have that kind of approach, I think we'll get somewhere.
Why the hotspots? What seemed to be happening in these areas that have been identified as a hotspot?
People may have come there from wherever, and then there are high population densities in those areas, so it quickly spreads among them. I'm not too sure of the details of the epidemiology in terms of who are getting it, but obviously there are people who are crowded together, share things in common. At a point, I heard the banks, there were people in enclosed places were getting it a lot. So that's why it's a hotspot. It's easily transmissible. The activities there are contributing to the spread. Probably a lot of pujemos and parties and things like that. So a lot of people are spreading it freely. And the danger is that many people may not know that they are carrying anything. You know, and now it seems to me that now people is presenting, people think they have malaria. It all comes that story. I think I have malaria, I'm not well. The next thing, they've treated malaria, I'm still not well. So it takes about 6 days or so before they find out that they have COVID. And by that time, you've come into contact with many people, probably your people at work, etc., because you've been going to work. So the idea is that there's a high density of people who have the virus. And so it's easy to spread the virus.
Yeah, and that brings to mind the new strain. If you're looking at it from the Ghanaian situation, what do we know about this new strain of COVID-19?
I know they've identified some of the new strains. What the last one I heard was from travelers, but I've always believed that it's been here already. I mean, that's the first thing, the first time, of course. I mean, the viruses are very smart. People have been traveling. Look, people travel, come in, you test them. The reason why, for example, I don't believe in testing all school children is you can test someone today, and then tomorrow the person will turn positive. So if you are testing and not quarantining for a period, you're just saying that, oh, today you don't have it, but the next day you may have it. And even with the new strain, apparently there's even a delayed positivity. Some people feel unwell, but you test them, they may be negative. And then after a few days, they may turn out positive. So it's a much more complex thing. Once you feel unwell and you are playing around, that period, you may be shedding a lot of the virus. So anyone you come into contact with, assuming that, oh, it's just malaria, it's nothing, the chances are that those people you're coming into contact with are at risk of getting the virus.
And in terms of it being complex, is it as complex as we are seeing in other parts of the world where we are being told that it's even affecting the youth, those who fall within the youth bracket.
The data I have today, just today, suggests that youthful people are getting
and this is the Ghanaian situation.
Yes, youth people are getting. I think I saw a message. A 15-year-old has lost part of the lungs.
Wow.
27-year-old person died. So we should take that picture out of our minds that young people are not getting it. And this just today, I saw the message I saw. This was from Dr. Youngson.
Ghana Medical Association.
He put a poster on, I saw it on my phone. A 15-year-old.
And talk about the Ghana Medical Association. They've spoken about the need to impose or revisit some restrictions, including church gatherings and parties and all that. How important is it to revisit those as a matter of urgency?
Okay, so let me speak from the past of a pastor. What I've realized is that Sunday is not a problem. The problems are having funerals, and even in the chapel it's not a problem. But immediately people step out and they go and sit to eat, then it becomes a problem. You can't convince anybody to put on a mask. And so probably for the gatherings which come after the activity, like a wedding, after the activities there's a gathering, we should restrict numbers, because it is the gatherings that are creating the problem. People never, even the policemen, the police, I hope they won't beat me up. The people who are supposed to kind of help, you see their mask on their chin and they are going around talking to people. It hardly works. And so I think that really what we need to do is probably as for parties, we should suspend them. I spoke to somebody just today, he was worried. And this is a church member whose friend is having a party. He said he's going to find an excuse not to go. People should suspend parties. We won't die if we don't have parties. We can keep them for another time. There are dire times. And so parties and then the bars and things, you know, they said the bars should shut down. I went somewhere just a few days ago. I saw 4 people sitting behind a table, no music, but they were sitting there. I thought that was a mini bar.
And so that brings to mind the culture barrier or the cultural disadvantage that that picture that you drew or painted to us. Bearing that in mind, would there be the need to visit, say, or impose a lockdown as UK is experiencing?
You see, the lockdown comes with its own challenges.
Speaking as a virologist.
Yes, I'm speaking as a virologist.
Yes.
Because if you're locking down and you're not testing, you remember the other lockdown, the testing was widely done. I mean, they went to areas that I didn't even close to where I was. I mean, I didn't know that they had actually gone down in the contact. The idea is that you want to test, get results early, isolate people so that it doesn't spread. But if you're going to test and you're not going to get the results early, then really why? Because the lockdown, yes, you may lock down in people with specific areas. So it's not, my point is that it's not that straightforward just locking down. And of course, it has economic implications. People may get hungry to a point that the hunger itself may make them do things that will go against the very purpose that you want to serve. So it's not that straightforward. I think with restrictions and the necessary protective measures, we can be able to get somewhere and try and control them. There are some things that are not essentials. Doing parties, big funerals. You know, I'm not talking about Rolling Scott and big funerals. And I told somebody that, I mean, if you look at the caliber of person, you see that everything was orderly. Because you won't get that in every funeral. Most funerals, there's nobody, policeman there or soldier or ushers there to tell you do this. It's not going to happen. So certain things must wait. And I think that if we place emphasis on those and the testing is done, because you see, if you test and remove people from the community, what we are doing is to reduce the number of people who are shedding the community, even if they are not that badly sick and they are taught well, maybe stay at home because of this. It may help.
Let's move into the protective mechanism. I mean, beyond the use of nose or face mask, hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah.
Tell me how it comes to play here.
Could you just put that on my diagram?
Okay, let's put that on the screens right now so we can have doctors through. So it's going to be displayed.
It's just a very simple diagram.
Just give us.
You know, and I think that that's the concept that people are finding difficult to appreciate. That if a virus...
So we have it there on the screen.
Viruses don't just hang anywhere. And the reason why this virus is behaving the way it is that our respiratory tract has some sort of environment for it to allow it to grow. I always use the door lock and a key as an explanation, because you can't take any key and open any door. I mean, most doors can be opened by a specific key. And so if you put any other key there, it won't open it. Okay, the virus and our cells has the same relationship. So that's why you don't have viruses, every virus infecting every part of our body. They have specific places because it's like a door, a lock and key relationship. Okay, so when the viruses go, they need that relationship to try to begin a process of infecting us. So like Professor said, if all the, and then we are stressing, and because I was speaking to somebody on radio and he said that, oh, he's happy that we are not saying people should throw, we are not saying that people should throw away any preventive measures. We are saying that there are established things, like the dentists use hydrogen peroxide. Canadian Dental Association has approved it for mouthwash before they treat patients in this time of COVID. So there are benefits. We know that if you use it, the likelihood is that you're not going to throw out a lot of the virus because it will kill some. So let's, with those benefits in mind, let's use this as a way of stopping the virus from entering the cell. And that's why he said that if you are covered, like when I came here, you see, I was telling your people that they should put on masks, otherwise I'll leave. If you are covered and by chance the virus slips past anything,
that's right,
because there was an environment where there was a lot of particles and what you were wearing could not protect you. In viruses, we call something primary replication. You say you go to primary school before you go to secondary school.
Right.
Good. So if a virus manages to enter, and then amount is not that, it's not a lot. I want to speak simple English. It's not a lot. It will go to the places where it has the particular cells where it can attach to. And it has to grow a little because our bodies are not passive. We have soldiers that will want to try to fight it. So what it does, it has to grow a bit before it continues to spread. So once it attaches to the cells and you are gargling, what you're going to do is that you can denature it. You can make it real so weak that it may not be able to continue its journey by infecting you. So we are saying that it's topical use. Do it so that in case anything has slipped, because you have been protected, you can make it so weak that it cannot even achieve its accomplishments. Viruses are also smart.
And since we are pressed with time, and of course, just display to us how the hydrogen peroxide works and how do we go about
You mean the dilution?
The dilution, yes. How does
the first thing is, please never drink. It's not for drinking.
For a moment,
I got a scary message today from somebody, fortunately not from Ghana. He's a classmate who is outside. And he said that he has something for food and then he was drinking. I said, please don't drink it. And I was happy when he said, oh, since 2015. So I knew it had nothing to do with our message that we were sending out. But most of the hydrogen peroxide on the market is 6%. Okay, but we are recommending 1% because of not everybody can stand
it. So they are fake ones.
So I'm glad FDA has brought this.
Yes.
I went to a pharmacy yesterday to buy one, and I looked and I didn't see the FDA number, so I didn't buy it.
So that's what you need to identify.
Well, I always make sure that I have an FDA
number.
You see their number, FDA this, and of course the second thing is that go to a pharmacy which is recognized.
Okay.
Those two important things.
Okay.
Don't just go to any pharmacy because you are going to buy it. At least you should know that pharmacy is recognized as a genuine pharmacy. You know them very well. And then you can buy for them so that even if there's no label on, you are sure where you're buying it from. But FDA has just made a release. They want to see their number on all the products. You can always verify from them if it is the number or not. So if you want to, because it's 6%, you want to take one part of this.
Okay.
Okay, so just one. So you're using the bottle top.
Right.
Just one part of this.
Okay.
And then you're using 5 parts of this.
Okay, that's water.
That's water.
X natural
yes,
water.
but it should be, if it's warm enough for you to gargle, not to burn your throat.
Right.
That would be helpful. So 1, 2, 3,
and
4, 5. What I do is I have a measuring cylinder actually at home. And then I add so that it's easy to be accurate. Right. So you can also do that. And then for the nose, because you're using 0.5%, you want to use half of what you have done. So once you get this, because you poured it in this mix, you take one of this.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is what you.
This is for the 0.5. So this is 1%.
Right.
The 1 and then plus the 5
right.
is 1%.
Right.
But we are recommending that for the nose use 0.5%. So I take one of this. And then I use one of water. So you've diluted it halfway. So this becomes 0.5.
Okay.
And the recommendation is that you should use something like this.
Okay.
I won't teach you what I use. I do other things as well. But you use something that can be easy to be able to go into your nose. And then you can then use the nose.
Well.
But hydrogen peroxide, I want to stress, is topical. And then we are saying that, we are not saying that stop everything, do everything.
Alongside.
Don't go out to places that you don't have to go to if you don't have to go to. Stay at home as much as possible unless you have to go to. We are saying do everything.
Very well.
But this is helpful
Very
to
well.
add an additional layer to what you do.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Sego, for joining the conversation. You're still watching XYZ Tonight. We'll move from a virologist, and then we look at it from a very interesting perspective before we wrap up the show. Just stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Ifa kura na menyisika. Edia ye mefui.
Ehin fa na menya bosia. Edia tre medjuma yimu.
Kai kura mabre. Miye bosia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yemamwa kwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ye won hyehyɛ ahodoɔ bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, akuokuro bosia, susu account, ɛne da so wɔ hɔ savings account, mebada akyɛn savings account, ɛne de akeka ho. Frɛ Suhum Rural Bank wɔ 034229186. Na wɔn nso wetumi aka sɛ
Suhum Rural Bank. Ama ene mayeka una.
Suhum Rural Bank. Enti me pa minie.
Me damwase.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
Before we go, let's still continue to stay with the issues around COVID-19, and this time around from the perspective of a biochemist. And thank God we've got Dr. Solomon Apiakobi here with us in the studio. Doc, thank you very much for joining us. So one major issue that came up in our previous conversation was the cultural disadvantage. People still not getting used to the fact that they need to go about the various safety protocols. For which there's a reason for the spike in COVID-19 cases. From a biochemist perspective, what is it that we need to do now? Because look, the cases are increasing. What do we need to do?
Yes, I think it's got to do with the education. What happened first was that the education was paramount. Everybody was talking about it. So it got into people's ears. So everybody began to adhere to it. But it's like since they got to know that right now things are coming back, they came down a bit, and they're quite okay. people a bit lose their gas, we relax a bit. So if the education could go up again, people know that it is real, it is killing people. This is the data. We can't take things for granted. I'm sure Ghanaians will comply. They'll come back to themselves. They'll put things to shape, and we're going to have this curve, coming down.
So you feel we're playing with the data?
The data.
Or we don't seem to take the data serious?
Yes.
Why?
Because, we thought, at first it was new to everybody.
Who thought?
Ghanaians thought, we thought it was new to everybody. And so...
Policymakers or
the
citizenry?
The citizenry. The policymakers made their policies. They came out with the rules for us to obey them, the social distancing and all that, washing of hands, You see, look at even door handles. I asked myself, I went to a place, there are about one door handle, almost 50 people are going through the door. Instead of us to sterilize or, sanitize the door handles regularly, we took things for granted. Everybody just going in and coming. Somebody might get all these things, put his hand up maybe around the nose, forgetting that if you are sneezing, you're coughing, you have to use a tissue paper, dispose it off before and sanitize your hand, before you go and touch the handle again. They went by, just put their palm around their nose, do all what they want, and they keep on touching the door handles. So if this one is not sanitized regularly, it's going to pose kind of a threat if the person is infected. For instance, come to with this social distancing. We look at what is happening now, the market areas, the supermarkets.
They're usually crowded.
They're usually crowded.
Yes.
So this 2 meters or the 6 feet social distance is not being adhered to now.
So education.
The education.
But
serious education.
But let's look at it finally. Yeah. I mean, for you as a biochemist, the world is looking at the COVID-19, what do you call it, vaccines.
Sure.
The United States of America, for instance, is a big ticket agenda for President Joe Biden. Here in Ghana, our president hinted of a vaccine, but never mentioned that it was in the country. As a biochemist and for someone who believes in the fact that Ghana can take on the world and beat any other country in terms of science and other areas, what is the Ghanaian doing in terms of bringing out a solution to deal with COVID-19?
You see, with the solutions, we already said 2 scenarios. You get a vaccine to prevent the virus, or you get a drug which is proven the clinical trials, so that if the person has disease condition, they can really take care of it. As we speak now, even in case of the USA, some vaccines have been on trials. And even though patient, what speed they did, at 9 months or so, ask yourself, we as Ghanaians, have been able to develop such vaccines? What timelines are you also talking about? So currently, as a country, as we stand now, I know negotiations, people are doing some kind of...
Personally, are you doing anything like that?
You see, in terms of the drug, for instance, for you to come up for a drug for it to be approved, the clinical studies might take maybe 3 years or so. So some of us, we have, look at alternative medicine that we can use to know that. But when you go forward...
You quite remember the Madagascar story.
Yes, that was there. But when you are asked to provide the data, the clinical data, you have WHO standards that all these ones might go through before they will be accepted. But getting that data, the financial muscle backing, you ask in case of Ghana and Africa, how much do we intend to invest in a vaccine? Do you have, the capacity to produce them? If you have, how much is the government or we as a continent investing in those vaccines? If the agenda is there, fine. But it looks like, we are doing something, but we still have an eye in Europe, looking at what they have done. Maybe they could get up some help. So the idea is somewhat divided. But currently, I'm a biochemist and provided, and I know we have like biologists here, we have good scientists here. If as a country, as a continent, we can invest much into these scientists, push them to the wall, come out with the vaccines of the drug, I'm sure Ghanaians will be able to do something.
Do you feel you scientists, your advice were not taken at all? Do you feel ignored? I mean, because time without number have you been telling policymakers do A, B, C, but it looks like you've been ignored. Do you get that feeling? That's my final question.
Of course, I wouldn't say ignored. The MOH, Ghana Medical Association, where some of these things were sent to the policymakers, and it's like let us now look at how we can prevent it. The thing is with us, look at how we can prevent the spread. I think that is where the attention has been focused on. But instead of coming out clearly, okay, we want to produce something ourselves. produce something
We
ourselves.
haven't reached the curative stage yet. So it's a preventive.
But
now.
at least if that attention should also be focused on what can we do? Assuming we are not expecting any vast remedy from the Western world. What can we do as a country? How much budget are we placing on this filter? Come up with something that we can also use to treat ourselves. But I don't see much of that in the media. All what is the prevention, which strictly we are adhering to them. We are praying the Ghanaians adhere to them. The cases also come down. But I think we have to do more.
Very well.
In terms of pushing our resources into pushing Ghanaian scientists, come out with something that we can also use to treat ourselves. In case we don't even have any vaccine, any drug coming from the Western world.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Solomon Appiah Kubi. It's been short though, but very incisive. Thank you very much as well, our viewers, for watching Xyz Tonight. We're back on Monday with another exciting edition. Thanks a lot.